But okay, thanks, Joe. I always forget that recording. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Huddle. Got a lot to talk about today. We're focusing on going to kind of put a bow on buyer services for at least for a little while, and then get back into some other areas of real estate. But we've been focused, obviously, a lot this year on the value proposition of a buyer's agent. So got a lot to go over. But before we jump into that, as we all heard, and thank you, Travis, for the email that went out company wide on the Feds did cut rates. I asked Travis to join us specifically and give us a update right from him, so we can all talk intelligently about what happened today with our clients. So, Travis, let me go ahead and turn the time over to you. Why don't you explain the correlation in what happened with the Fed rates and what happens with the actual rate? So, take it away, Travis.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Wow. What a wild and crazy 48 to 36 hours, right? I can say that the barrage of phone calls and questions, one, super flattering, right? That folks are reaching out to inquire about what is actually happening. The other thing that I found is there's a lot of kind of misinformation, not misinformation, just maybe inaccurate information being shared about, well, why was there such a spike? And, is it this candidate or that candidate's policies? And, gosh, what does that mean from an inflationary standpoint? So let me try and tighten that commentary up a little bit. So regardless of who won the election, there's some unknowns out there about policies, right? And both candidates, again, this isn't a political discussion, this is an economics discussion. Both candidates had specific policies that they were trying to adopt and therefore would have pushed through the House and the Senate. Well, in both of those examples, whether it be housing credits from the government for first-time homebuyers or whether it is tariffs in another camp, both of those things have inflationary pressure. And what do I mean by that? Inflationary pressure then puts some unknowns out there of how fast you can adopt specific policies and what pressure that puts on the economy. So, as an example, if we give homebuyer credit, which is important to us, right? If we give that homebuyer credit, it has to be paid for somehow, which would inversely increase the national debt because we don't have the tax accrual to do it. Or in the reverse, the market starts to take off and is doing better than anticipated, and therefore the Fed may not cut rates, or specifically around tariffs and pressure there as well, right? So both of those things could imply larger government spending and therefore put inflationary pressure, which lessens the ability for the Fed to act, right? So think about the Fed as pulling levers, and there's only just so many levers that they could pull in that process. And if we continue down a more positive economic path, there's no need to pull those levers, right? Rates can remain high, the economy can absorb those things. So again, that's the first thing. The second thing I would ask is, us to take more of a long-term view of what's happening with the 10-year Treasury. 10-year Treasuries go to bond auctions, and those bond auctions mean that people are going to come and purchase those Treasuries from the U.S. government. Well, again, because of potential inflationary pressure, the market reacts, and what does it always do, Will? It always overreacts every single time. So we saw that yesterday. And remarkably, guess where we're at today? We're sitting, as I'm speaking now, back at 4.355% on the 10-year Treasury. That is exactly where we started at the beginning of the week, guys. The last point I want to leave you with as we talk about the 10-year Treasury is that it's been priced in long term. We talked about the July move down to the September Fed announcement. The market had already priced that in. Secondarily to that, they're pricing in potential policies into 25 and 26, and you're seeing the 10-year react and go up again. So again, the market is already hedging these things. They already hedged the quarter point move from the prime today. And what should we expect tomorrow? So this is my final sort of commentary around the prime reduction today of 0.25%. I don't expect the Fed to click it again in December. In fact, the markets today are kind of indicating that they're not going to. However, in 25, I was listening to Powell's commentary right as I was jumping on this call. And Powell said that he is anticipating still to have 4 different adjustments to the lower side in 25 as well. So I expect that to continue to drive the market back down once we settle into what potentially those policies are going to be. A little bit of global conflict from Iran and Israel, et cetera, start to settle out and we get a little more direction there. We won't have that as a pressure point either. So the election is now done behind us. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to some of those other things that could potentially happen, and that is policy. And then the last thing is what that global pressure is. So, Travis, kick it back up one more notch. What should we expect? I do expect rates to moderate between now and the end of the year, right? A lot of this stuff is behind us. Secondarily to that, I do absolutely anticipate the Fed move of an additional 4 points next year, which could be one total percentage point plus to again start driving that interest rate down next year as well. I expect them to settle somewhere in the mid to high fives to sixes. And from what I'm reading, the economists agree with that as well. So that was a lot there, guys. I'm sorry, but I think it's important to kind of get a more global picture of what happened yesterday and kind of talk through the impact to the treasuries and then also the Fed cut today. Will, any questions on that?
So we will not see any kind of effect on mortgage rate that as we know it, generally speaking, until maybe even tomorrow, there might be something adjusted. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there might be a little bit of downward pressure on the 10-year treasury. Again, it's sitting at 4.355 now. If we start to ease that back, we'll get a little bit of interest rate relief, but not in a meaningful way, guys. The mortgage rate is not going to go from 6 3/8 today or 6 1/4, into the high fives. It won't happen that fast. I would expect by midweek next week for a little bit of easing.
Okay. All right. We'll stay on top of it. Glad you're on the team. Seriously, Travis, you're an amazing asset for all of us. We'll pass that along to our buyer clients. Let them know what Travis just said. I hope you guys were paying attention. It's really good stuff. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate you. Okay, let's go ahead and pull up these two documents, Mike. Let's go with the buyer overview and pull that one up, and then also the benefit exercise that we're going to go through. This is a really important skill set. So you're by the way, let's put this in the chat so they can print it off, Mike, if that's okay, while you're at it. You're looking at the summary of the buyer guide. I hope you guys have all had this. Head nods if you have. For those on video. Yes, you have this. You have this piece. Okay. If not, we'll put it in the chat. You can certainly just print it off. This is a summary of buyer services. This is meant to be used when we only have a few minutes to talk to a buyer. We did talk about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I know this isn't new. And we talked about it on sales meeting. But the next piece is, let's go to that one. So this is an exercise that you translate what you do into why it matters. I'm really convinced the more I see commission objections, and when we see commissions going up on a buyer or a seller side, it's because we've got the timing of price right. And what I mean by this is that the benefit has already been realized before you give the commission rate. So the skill set here is to translate what you do into why it matters, or what you do into the benefit. So as we look at this exercise here, there's only one benefit on the left column. Can anyone tell me what it is? Which one's the benefit? You have all these things we're going to do, and then there's one benefit. It's kind of like, the old Sesame Street. Which one of these don't belong? Which one of these is different? Anybody see it? Put your answer in the chat if you can. We got coordinate, review, discuss. Look at these verbs: help, find, deliver. Can anyone see the organize? Can anyone see what the benefit is? One of them is a little bit different. My cursor's on it in case you need a little bit of help. There it is. So find the right home is a benefit. So in your notes, before we get started in the left or the right column, write this down really quick. 1 through 6. So write 1 through 6. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me give you the core or fundamental benefits, and then we can attach them. You guys ready? Okay, number one, the first benefit to a buyer is always going to be to find the right property. So what you do, the reason you do that is so they can find the right property. All right, so there's your translation to benefit. The next one is obtain best possible price. Obtain best possible price or obtain best price. Number three is least amount of legal risk, very similar to seller's core benefits. Number four, obtain the most favorable terms, concessions, included items, time of possession, things like that. Number five, this is on their time frame. So when they say we really want to be in a property no later than the end of the year, then that becomes the benefit. So the quote here to remember is when is as important as why. So that we recognize that we have a time frame. And the last one that's a core benefit is to make informed decisions. Okay, so there's a transition sentence. Sorry, geez, I could speak better today. There's a transition sentence. Write this down. So you can, and then dot, 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 or so we're able to, dot, dot, dot. Okay, so we're going to say, I do this thing. I hook you up with Real Scout so you can find the right property. You see that? What I have is Real Scout, has no value, zero value. They don't give a crap about Real Scout until you say, so you can find the right property. Now they understand why Real Scout matters. They see benefit. Okay. Go off of the screen for just a sec, Mike. Just another example. I'm looking at buyer's due diligence checklist. Okay, who cares about that? Until we say, so that we can lower our legal risk. You see the transition, so we can, or so you're able to? When you say what you do, think about that sentence, and then it will tee up in your mind why it matters. Now you're selling benefit and not feature. Make sense, everybody? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back now to the list. And I've just given you two examples. Let's see if we can make a list now of what the benefits are. So what's the benefit in coordinating the initial buyer consultation? Just talk openly, unmic if you want. Why would that matter? In the beginning of the buyer guide, we have this section on finding out what matters to them, from here to home. And we have this initial, what's important to you? Tailoring your home search. What's your lifestyle? Tell me about your locations, features, and amenities. Why does it matter to you and your family? So tell me, what's the benefit of all that? Come on, you guys. This is a monologue today. I don't want to really, I love Zoom. I'm so grateful for Zoom. Isn't Rachel Moody on this call somewhere?
Rachel Moody is on the call somewhere.
Okay, I'm pretty much going, Rach, have a conversation with me for a second. Tell me why it matters to have this initial consultation. What do you think, Rach? Why does it matter to them?
Why does it matter to your buyer to have this initial
why does it matter to the buyer to have that initial consultation?
Well, you're setting your value from the beginning and letting them know what everything that you can do for them to help them get through this experience.
Okay.
Smoother.
Is there any one of these things that the core benefits that might attach better to that one? I mean, does find the right property fit, obtain the best price, least amount of legal risk, obtain favorable terms, time frame, or make informed decisions? Which one goes best with coordinate your initial buyer consultation?
Which one goes best with coordinating the initial buyer consultation?
Yes.
Find the right property.
Find the right property. Yep.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the better one. Good answer.
Get
So
them
really,
focused so they don't waste their time.
yeah, I mean, we need clear direction from them. We don't want to be pretentious. We don't want to make assumptions. So we need to find out what's important to them. And we have a lot of those little talking points inside the buyer guide. But remember to come back to why that is important, why we hold that. Let's go on to the next one. So we review and assign an agreement. Well, this is the buyer broker agreement. Why would this matter to them? Not for us, never about us, all about them. So why would it matter for them to sign a buyer broker agreement?
Why it matters to them is that,
Uh-huh.
well, I think upfront they understand that you're their fiduciary, and that I think pointing out all of your fiduciary obligations is huge in your agreement.
Love it. I think that's the best answer, guys. I typically go down the fiduciary road. The only way we can unlock those, benefits to them. And so what are they? You have to think about what they are. It's loyalty to them. It's reasonable care. That's a professional standard that's held on their behalf. We disclose any interest that, may be of conflict that we might be aware of. We have confidentiality. They can speak open to us. We help negotiate better terms for them. All of that is unlocked with this buyer agreement. So I do go down that road too, Rach. Where I think it's about a fiduciary benefit to them. Now we get down in discussing financial options. What's this about? So which one is there a couple of these or one of these core benefits that we could attach to discussing financial options?
I think the number one thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kara.
Oh, I'm just saying the favorable terms.
Yeah. And we often think about favorable terms with maybe the negotiating directly, with seller, but this is where we use our Metro Mountain Mortgage partner and we discuss a strategy together on what is best for their unique situation. It's customized to them so that we can then formulate a negotiation with the seller. So very good. I like obtain the best favorable terms. So number 4 would probably go better in that slot. Okay, what about this pre-approval letter? What would that be about? What's the benefit for that? Why do we need we're going to help the process in obtaining a pre-approval letter. Which core benefit goes well with that one? What do you think, Travis? What do you think? Which one is it?
I just had it, and we need to scroll back down. It is the
You unmuted, so I thought, well, maybe he's got something to add to this pre-approval.
Well, I had it at the top. Yeah, I don't recall which one it was. Oh, it's the discuss financing options, right? That's the one.
Yeah, so we get this help in the process of getting the approval letter. People don't understand why a pre-approval letter matters to them until you tell them why it matters. It matters because it helps us to negotiate on their behalf better. Every seller wants to make sure that they understand the strength and the ability of the buyer to perform. Most sales that fail are because the buyer cannot perform. We need to give the seller confidence that you can perform, and then we're able to negotiate the better terms and price for you. Stronger the buyer, stronger the offer for the buyer, right? So we remove that fear that they may not be able to actually be able to qualify. A strong letter is a stronger buyer too, by the way. Look for the meat inside of a pre-approval letter, like things that have been verified. We're likely to always have the language that says underwriter to verify. I get it, because we're not at underwriting when we write these offers. But we can say that we've had verifications of whatever we've had. If we have verification of job, we have verification of income, we have verification of down payment, then we want that in the letter. The stronger the letter, the stronger the offer. This is all about saving them money. Remember, speak the language of benefit on each one of these things. That's a really big one. And it's about getting them the best price and the best terms. So let's go on to the next one. We create a home searching plan. Maybe these are easy, guys. Finding the right home and creating the home searching plan is all about finding the right property for them. Mm-hmm. And you kind of get the idea, right? So here, let's do this. Go off this screen for a second. I'd let her go a little bit faster on this and let the rest of that be homework. what you need to memorize are the 6 things I just mentioned. Find the right home, negotiate the best price, least amount of legal risk, obtain the most favorable terms on your time frame, and make informed decisions. Those are fundamental core benefits to every buyer. That's where they see value. If you're getting commission objections, it's because you're not selling the benefit before the commission discussion happens. So this was that discussion on the timing of price. We want price to be communicated after benefit is realized. When benefit is realized, price is justified with cost. If benefit is not realized, it'll never be justified. And it doesn't matter how low you adjust your commission. So remember that. It's all about benefit first. Okay? And speaking the language of benefit. So I hope that helps you with that exercise. Everyone have access to it? Yes? We put it in the chat, right, Mike?
Yeah, we put it in the chat a few times, so y'all should have it.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks to our marketing department for putting that together. That's a good exercise. Okay. Mike, what was that document we wanted to pull up? Wasn't it buyer due diligence checklist?
That's right.
Okay, let's pull that up. And then I want to talk about, I think Mike and I have 2 different transaction scenarios we just want to run by everybody really quick. I hope that you are using this document to teach from and to present from. When you're thinking about your buyer presentation, you need to bring these forms with you. At the back of it, it has checklists. So on page 34 of the buyer guide, the very end, it says buyer broker agreement, lifestyle checklist, borrower documentation checklist, buyer due diligence checklist. There could be development opportunities that you bring with you. So pocket listings, inventory that's not on the MLS, at moving checklist. These were all checklists that were at the back that we did not pre-print in the buyer guide. When you see the complexity, remember, you also see the problem. And when you frame the problem, now you have teed up the solution. And then when solution meets problem, we get value. So, we're actually doing really well on this. So it seems like most of you are getting it right. This is another reminder to use a form to teach from. And I think this screams lowering legal risk. The whole form. Like, why does compliance and codes matter? If you can rent the property or not, this is all legal risk, lowering legal risk. The next core benefit here is making informed decisions so that we know what we're getting. And is there anything on this, Mike, that we wanted to highlight? I don't know if there was one particular. Was there a section we wanted to highlight?
I don't think so. I think the biggest ones are, we talk about the physical condition of the home all the time. But we don't, some of the things that kind of get forgotten to the last minute are homeowners insurance and flood insurance, that type of thing. Because those are becoming bigger issues all the time. There are some homes that have become uninsurable. That's a really rough thing to find out after the expiration of our due diligence period.
Yeah.
So those are really important.
Yep.
So those, just a reminder, you talk about those first thing, and then that's one of the first things you tell your buyer to go investigate for themselves. We don't do that. Many of us have done that, hey, by the way, I'm getting homeowners insurance and I need it in 4 days. We've all probably made that mistake. But that's one of the first things we should do. And the rest of them, I think, are, this one actually came up. It doesn't happen very often. An agent called me about FERPTA the other day, and we deal with that so rarely. But because we represent the buyer in this transaction, and now we have to go relearn all the FERPTA stuff so we deliver the right information. So make sure you cover it. Just don't. My point is not that you need to go learn FERPTA right now, but you need to cover every single one of these things. And have some idea of of the warning, because they're all pretty dang important.
Yeah, I think we get in the habit of sometimes just having this thing signed, as a check the box and it's done. I can get paid, the file's complete, and all of that. It's most powerful when it's in the buyer presentation originally, and when it's signed there. That's where it's most powerful because people don't understand the complexity of the business. Matter of fact, there is an agent, and you don't have to unmute and say, but one of the agents on the call right now had your case about the homeowner's insurance. We were post due diligence. And remember, homeowners insurance shows up in due diligence as one of the things that they need to resolve the availability and cost of homeowners insurance, what the REPC says. And it has to be resolved when? Prior to due diligence. We were post due diligence, we were ready to close, and we did not have a carrier that they anticipated that would cover the home. So we find ourselves under the gun. It makes everyone nervous. Can I even get insurance? What is the cost? Well, it did resolve itself. Fortunately, there was a very reputable provider that came forward. And I think this was also at the time, just coincidentally, when there was a fire already, like there was already a fire near the neighborhood. And so that actually compounded it as well, makes everyone nervous. There'd be no coverage for the property. So these are all the villains that are out there in real estate that I've been talking a lot about. There's so many villains that are out there. And when you introduce villain in the story, that's how you love the hero. And we've got to do a better job of getting complicated and not oversimplify this thing. Why we have fun and while we're not negative. That's the challenge. You have to keep it fun, even though you're introducing the villain, and you have to not be negative. Otherwise, the whole process is not fun. So that's the warning. But make sure you bring the villain into the story so they can see why you matter, why they need a hero. They need a real estate agent in the deal. So okay, we can pull that off the screen.
Okay.
Mike, why don't we review your transactional scenario really quick, and then I'll give mine. I hope this one helps. This was a problem last week, but go ahead. Give your I'll do
so
mine.
I think mine is a very common scenario, and it keeps coming up. So I feel like we got to keep talking about this issue, and it has to do with and they're kind of the same, like a divorce situation or a trust situation or a probate situation where the decision makers become, the people who are making the decisions either become slightly unclear, or in the case of potentially a trust where a lot of other players are entering the field and wanting to have input into the process. And I think, for those of us who've been in that situation, you realize how quickly that can devolve into problems. And, I think we can handle, oftentimes we can, if we have cooperating family members, or cooperating divorce, right? So it's not so contentious. We can get through that and figure it out. But very often, when these things come up, we know who's involved. We know who, may stand to benefit financially in the case of a trust, and they want their input. And of course, if you were benefiting financially, would you not want some input into the transaction process or whatnot? My main advice is, and Will says it the best, that, you do need to approach this with empathy. You do need to approach this with patience. But there has to be some order of operations, and you have to be the one to dish it out. So, of course, you don't want to be in the middle of a family argument about what to do with a home, but you need to have some order that surrounds the process and the situation. So in these circumstances, it may be best, if you have your initial listing presentation, to say stuff like, "Hey, listen, I know that all of you stand to benefit in some way, and that everyone should have a voice, but there's too many of you to have a voice that's talking directly to me. So amongst yourselves, you have to find out who the decision maker is and have these debates amongst yourselves. And then I receive clear communication from this person and that person, and they probably should be the trustees or an executor or whatever title it is. Make sure you communicate that very clearly. People may not like it. You may receive pushback on that, but that's for them to figure out, right? We don't want to get in the middle and receive, "Hey, well, I know, but this other person called me and gave me conflicting information." They need to solve those problems by themselves. They really do. Your job is to give clear guidance of what they can and can't do, and then execute the will of the trust. Okay. So just make sure, and especially in divorce situations, right? Uh, Again, receiving a phone call from one party, I want this, and then the other party, I want that. Well, what are you supposed to do? Your job is to listen. Hey, I know that you're not talking to each other, but I'm not the mediator of your communication here. So if there's some real infighting, remember, you need to create clear guidelines of how they communicate with you. So if their attorneys have to talk to each other and then issue you guidelines, that's what we do. But we are not the intermediary of that discussion. Okay, we facilitate the real estate transactions. We don't solve marital problems, divorce problems, or trust problems.
I disagree with that because I am I'm a relationship intermediary all the time. I have
Well,
some
no,
psychiatric bills out there.
I
Yeah.
think no, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, because I think in most transactions, let's say they're just married and they're happy and they're selling their house, like, we become counselors of sorts, right? And there's plenty of scenarios where there's a divorcing couple and you can kind of guide them and sort of get to where you're going. I think I probably should have prefaced it, when things get really contentious, we need to set very clear boundaries of how they communicate with us. And that's really my point. I mean, if things are generally fine, we don't have to lay down the law, or we don't have to have a come to Jesus meeting about the transaction. Yeah, I mean, I think your initial effort, Rachel, is correct. Like, we need to be the one that's like, hey guys, let's all hug and hold hands and get to the closing table. But that doesn't always work. And if you are the one that happens to be selected in a divorcing couple, from the husband or the wife, then you might be the enemy of the other person automatically, because you just happen to be the one selected. So just remember, you have the option to say, hey, I can't do this anymore, and you guys need to communicate a different way. So, but talk to your but there's always context. There's always, very fine details that need to be ironed out. Talk to your broker and set clear guidelines. Take it away, Will.
I was going to say, anybody who needs now some relationship advice, Rachel will be very, happy to take your call. She's very good at it. Where's Cora? Is she on too? Cora, could she also vet this?
Please don't put more on her plate, because that means that I have to work more. And
Got it. Okay, well said. All right, last tip. One of the most frustrating things that I think we see in the document review process is an offer. We have a rep C, we have 4, 5, 6 addendums, and one of those addendums in the middle gets ignored, meaning it's not responded to. It's signed by one of the parties. It's skipped. We go on to say, addendum 4 and addendum 3 was skipped. And we don't see the ping pong process of offer, counter, or offer and acceptance. We see addendums that are misnumbered. It's a problem. Just want to remind you guys, start off with the rules from the state of Utah's standpoint. One of our jobs under reasonable care and our fiduciary duty is to make sure that the buyer and seller's agreement is in writing and enforceable. And it can be enforceable if the terms are ambiguous. And if the ambiguity is authored by an agent or lack of professional care, then we will find ourselves disciplined for this. And if the other agent is the one who wrote it and your client signed it, you're both in trouble. So if any one of our clients end up in a contract, it's determined that the language is ambiguous, like a skipped addendum, then we're in trouble. I'll start off with the end of the story. It all worked out, okay? And both parties agreed to terms to clarify everything, so everything worked out. But when we back up and we found ourselves with an accepted offer and with 6 addendums, at that phase, no one could tell me in the contract what the sales price was, when the financing appraisal deadline was, because was it extended? Was it not extended? Was earnest money going to be non-refundable today or not? And what was the concessions that was going to be paid? Like, it was ridiculous. And fortunately, and no names here, but I love our agent, like one of my dearest friends. But I was just so disappointed in how we ended up there. Now, fortunately, it all worked out, and I'm very proud of how that all came together. And it was because her integrity is unmatched. But I just want to remind you that if you don't agree with an addendum, say two, none of it, everything on addendum two you don't agree with, you're still going to counter addendum two. Okay, you're not going to skip addendum two. I hope everybody understands that. We need a ping pong effect in our offer, so it's very, very clear and we don't skip. Now, what happens if you find yourself with something that's not very clear? Well, happy to help you. All of our brokers are happy to help, but we're gonna grab a blank addendum and we're gonna write at the top of that. We're gonna write for clarification purposes, and then we're gonna clean it up. For clarification purposes, in regards to addendum number two, all the items on addendum two are not agreed to, are not acceptable. Okay, or therefore removed. If you want help with that. But that's the structure. The skeleton here is for clarification purposes, and then we identify what we're going to change. Remember, what we're fighting here is that the last addendum is the most powerful. Everyone understand that, right? Last addendum most powerful. And then the things that are not modified are agreed to, right? If you don't address them, you've accepted them. So if there's, say, 4 items on addendum 2, and you only want to counter 2 of those, then you're specifically saying item 1, item 3 on addendum 2 as follows. And then you're restructuring that. You will be agreeing to the things you don't modify. Okay, so that's why it's really important to make sure that we are contracting clearly. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves, in a myriad of trouble. Not only, I mean, we could get triple attacked, civil, state, and ethics from all of that. And so that's really it from me today. Is think that if you need help with that, of course, the deal doctoring is a really important part of everything that we do. Right. And I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping everybody. Mike, I'm just thinking, did I scare anyone from calling me? I didn't scare anyone from calling me, did I? Still reach out? Okay.
I mean, we all have a lot of adjectives that people use to describe us, and I don't think anybody describes you as scary.
Okay, good. Good. All right. Well, I'm happy to say that whole deal worked out, but there for a minute I was starting to wonder. But it all came together, and actually kudos to the other agent on the other side, not with our company. They apologized as well, understood their own errors in that, and the 2 agents came together, got their clients to work it out. Doesn't always happen that way, as we know. We got lucky. It's always great to learn a lesson and not have to pay the ultimate price for it. So glad for that. Look, I'm really proud of all of you. We've got so many things to be grateful for. We've got great owners of this company, an amazing brand, great teammates, great staff, great friends and family in this company. We have a lot to be grateful for, and we do a phenomenal job. I think we could just maybe do a little bit better in making sure we're speaking the language of benefit before we give price on our commission amounts. Do a little bit better of translating what you do into why it matters for them. I think these exercises will really help you. And be really empathetic with people and patient and kind. When someone wants to show our listing, let's go above and beyond. Think of what they had to go through. They had to get a buyer broker agreement signed, maybe before they were ready. And it's a little harder than it used to be. So let's make sure we really thank our buyer agents for showing our listings. And let's be very, very ethical in what we've been told to communicate from our seller. If it isn't a full 3%, then let's make sure that we're honest about that. Let's make sure we keep our fiduciary duty in line with everybody, but also very ethical with the other side. I think everyone could really use a lot of kindness right now. It's been a tumultuous summer with all the changes, so especially on the buyer side, and I think it would go a long way. I'm not the only one who feels that way. A lot of you have said the same thing, and a lot of you are already doing that, and I commend you for that. We sometimes get looked at like we're the bigger company, and somehow that means that we, in sports you would call it, it's a personal foul too, for taunting. I'm thinking about football this week. I think there's a game this Saturday that might matter to some people. I don't know. Some might be watching, but we never want to be that. We want to be gracious and good competitors with the agents that we work for and or work with, and make sure that we're a good example of everybody. I think it'd go a long way. Anyway, that's my soapbox. Anything else to add, Mike, that I missed? Hey, wait, big announcement. Help me get the word out. I sent an email yesterday. A lot of you need the Code of Ethics class before this renewal cycle is over. Like
right.
almost everybody needs it, especially in Park City. Right, David, you were on the list. You have to have it every 2 years. We are going to hold it in Park City because that was where the majority of the agents were who needed it. Jennifer and Hillary did get us the hospital location. So 12 to noon on November 25th. It was literally the only day we had. So the only day we had was Monday the 25th. I hope it will work for you. Probably no day is convenient to take the Code of Ethics class, but it's certainly the best way to get this done. You don't want to go subject yourself to a PowerPoint and an online or another teacher or something like that, or go to the board. If you got to do it, this is the best way to do it. So get the word out. Make sure you RSVP so that we know we've got enough materials and we have enough room and space for everybody. So help me get the word out. How many are attending that or plan on attending it?
I haven't RSVP'd, but I am going. I would also say, too, that it's very likely, I don't know if the Utah Association of Realtor site member login has that info. I did find it in my local board. I didn't know if I needed it, and I logged into my local board and played around and did find the spot where I needed it. So it's every 2 years you need it. And just for reference, mine was I need it by the end of this year. So January 1 of 2022 to December 31 of 2024 is my time block. It's highly likely you have a very similar time block. So if you don't remember doing it in the last 12 months, it's likely that you need it done before you renew. So good opportunity.
And this was also doubles up as CE for your license renewal. So not just the NAR certification. So I hope to see all those who can make it on November 25th in person at the Blair Education Center at the hospital. So help me get the word out. Make sure you RSVP. Okay, I guess we'll wrap it up. I know that's a little bit earlier today than normal, but everyone's got a pretty big schedule today. So we could use the extra 15 minutes. Let's go out there and find someone to help. Okay.